And I think we are ready to start our opening plenary. So how are you, everybody? How's everyone? Okay, let's tap the person on your right and say, how was your snack? How was your snack? Yes. And then tap the person on your left and say, hope you had a good coffee. Hope you are ready for this opening plenary. So we had some people arrive just a few minutes before. We know it's always a battle when there is Manila traffic. But we are now ready for our opening plenary. And we have an exciting plenary today. Earlier, when DG Bruno was talking about breaking silos, this opening plenary is going to talk about what circular economy looks like in different sectors and in different ADB projects and case studies. But before that, I want to see people's participation online just to check how we are doing. So can we have the slide with the QR code for our online polling? So you can take a QR code, or you can also visit ahaslides.com/ADBCE forum. So this link is important, or this QR code is important, because this is also how you can ask questions to the panel later. So while the presentations are ongoing and the discussion is ongoing, this is how you will be able to ask questions. So let's look at the first question. Let's just get a feel of how people are feeling. The first question you will see on your slide, in your ahaslides.com, is what is your inner weather? So outside, the outer weather is 32 degrees with a chance of cloudiness. But how about your inner weather? In Filipino, the translation is, ano ang panahon ng inyong puso? What is the weather in your heart? Wow. Okay, so let's see how people are feeling. We have, seems to be a good distribution of feelings. We have almost 40% as sunny and full of energy. Half of the room is feeling windy, just going with the flow. Maybe some of you aren't even sure what's going to happen, but you are here and you made it and you are present. There's almost 9% that's feeling restless, and about little less than 4% feeling under the weather. So you can take some tea or coffee later to give you some more energy, and maybe more people will go towards the sunny side of the room. So next question is, what sector are you representing? Let's see what kind of composition we have in this room. Are you from a nonprofit or civil society? Are you from the private sector? Are you representing companies? And are you from the government? Oh, we have several government representatives here. We have ADB staff and consultants as well, and others. I wonder what the others are. We also have some emojis. There are emoji reactions showing up. We have 72 people that are logged in, or almost 90 people who are logged in. Okay, so the highest composition we have are from the private sector, and then the government. That's a good mix, because they are the sectors that are really pushing innovation in circular economy. And for the last question before we begin, we have the question, what words, phrases, or imagery comes to mind when you hear the words circular economy? What words, phrases, or imagery comes to mind when you hear circular economy? I think of a lot of like repairs. When something is broken, instead of buying a new thing, I just make sure I have it repaired. Okay, now we have climate finance, reduce, loop forward. Sustainability is getting a lot of votes. Upcycling, EPR. We have an EPR talk happening in the afternoon. This is my way of also plugging what sessions are going to happen this afternoon and tomorrow. So there's going to be a talk on EPR this afternoon, and the case study is from the Republic of Korea. Diversion, opportunity. I love opportunity. A society I want to live in, and ESG. So these are great words, and a lot of these words are actually going to come up in the next couple of days and this afternoon and tomorrow, because the talks are going to be highlighting these words and these terms. I'm sure you're going to see them coming up. So with that, we can start with our opening presentation. There's a lot of questions on how circular economy can be integrated in transportation and mobility. And this morning, we have a presentation focusing on electric vehicles. Our speaker is Miguel Bermundo, who is the Vice President for People and Sustainability at Mober Philippines. He is the former Head of Sustainability Governance at GCash, where he oversaw sustainability strategies, ESG risk management, and corporate sustainability compliance. Before that, he spent 12 years at Globe, leading citizenship and advocacy marketing and stakeholder engagement and management. Right now, he is the Chief Sustainability Officer of Mober, where he leads sustainability integration, human resources, training, and corporate culture. Let's all welcome Miguel Bermundo.
Good morning. Let me just test my slide. Okay. Okay. Well, firstly, thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come to talks like this, especially with ADB. Thank you so much. We're looking to learn from you as much as I try to impart what we could to you. Show of hands, who here knows who Mober is before this talk, before Googling us or putting our company name on ChatGPT? It's good. We have a joke in the office that there's usually just 3 reasons for people to know Mober, because we're generally still small, relatively. One is because you probably saw us in the Forbes Asia 100 companies to watch. The second could be that you probably saw some of our EVs on the road, but it's most likely that you bought something from IKEA, right? If you buy something from IKEA, we're one of the major logistics partners of IKEA, so it's very likely you saw our trucks at your home or your condo. Right, so let me share a little bit about the company, where we've been and what we've been doing. The company's been around for about 10 years. Many people think we're a new company. It followed a different business model back then. It's only 5 years ago that the founder of the company, Dennis Nang, decided to go full electric vehicles. And that paid dividends almost immediately, with us securing very key partners such as IKEA, and we'll mention a few others in a bit. So starting from ground zero, we help businesses with 2 things. One is decarbonize their fleet efficiently and accelerate their sustainability ambitions. There are 7 companies here. They're mostly global. And what you'll notice here is, for the likes of IKEA, Nestle, and Starbucks, one of the reasons why we're doing business with them is there is a global alignment on responsible procurement and sustainability. And that's what we say when the move to electric vehicles had paid immediate dividends. SM is local, but definitely one company that's very aggressive in the sustainability space in the Philippines. You have Maersk, Modernist, also. So beyond electrifying logistics, we're enabling a full green ecosystem. What does this mean? The aspiration is not just to be in the business of electric vehicle use in logistics, but we're looking at revenue streams around charging stations. We'll share a little bit about what we're doing there. We have quite a large fleet of drivers who are very specifically equipped to manage and take care of electric vehicles. And there are a lot of nuances around using electric vehicles and maneuvering them versus non-electric vehicles. We have our own digital system. We've invested heavily on our own platforms, and it's very key to extending the lifespan of our assets. And we'll also talk about that later, and maybe also during the discussions. What we want to highlight now is one of the challenges of going into the EV business. And you might notice that there might not be too many. Outside of Mober, you may not be able to mention other companies who are doing it. And probably the other companies are much smaller than us. One of the reasons is there is a big requirement for charging infrastructure. You can't just buy electric vehicles. You need to invest in a charging station. Compared to what the consumer vehicles you see and all the charging options in malls and whatnot, the electric vehicles for logistics, it's a different port, it's a different system altogether. So there's investment required for that. Uh, you also have the need to train your own drivers because of the nuances around driving an EV vehicle. I'll name two. One is when you're braking for an electric vehicle, you have to do it very slowly. And that's very crucial for battery health because braking is how you charge the vehicle again. So that's many people don't know that in terms of electric vehicle use. So abrupt abrupt braking is not ideal, and it also leads to us retraining our drivers because it's so important to take care of our our batteries. The other one is on obviously the acceleration, the manner in which you accelerate. You can't just operate it like a golf cart. There is a very specific way to maneuver it to accelerate and decelerate as well. No affordable entry point for small truckers. This is very true because, like we said, you need charging infrastructure. You need more than one EV. There's a risk um, um, of of battery failure if you're not very careful. It's also new technology, so you have to also invest in your own software. So if you don't have any tech backbone into battery and transport metrics, that's also something that sort of gets people to step back and say, maybe let's not try electric vehicles. And Mober went exactly the opposite, and we went, full electric vehicles. And we'll tell you what that has done for us. So when we say we are an ecosystem solution, it's a full stack of green logistics solutions. Currently, we have 150 units, mostly in NCR, but we are also in the provincial areas. We're looking to target 500 EVs by 2026. We have batches of EVs coming in every quarter till next year, so it's very exciting for us. And our HR is up to here trying to hire as many drivers and equipping them in time before the EVs come in. In terms of the charging station, we're proud to be the biggest in the Philippines. We have a warehouse of 52, 56 charging ports. That's the largest in the Philippines. And we'd like to say we're in Southeast Asia. We're just trying to do our due diligence that's true. But so far, it's been standing. And we're looking to expand already because of the incoming vehicles. We can't accommodate all the vehicles coming in. We need one in the north, one in the south. So it's a very exciting time for Mober, which really came from very humble beginnings. One thing we're very proud of is the TMS and BMS. This is the transport management system and the battery management system that allows us to have full visibility of the vital signs of an EV battery. Because the industry is quite new in the Philippines and even to ourselves, it's so important to always monitor this very, very well because the loss of the asset is pretty much the loss of the business. Another is the Driver's Academy. It's very important. On one hand, to equip ourselves with equip our drivers with the nuances of driving EV, but also in customer service. So business continuity-wise, we want everyone to have a good experience. EV rentals for small truckers is something we're looking to do down the road. So for competitors, big and small, we don't really see them as competitors. We'll also show that in the slide later, in that we're looking to provide solutions so that they can get into the business of using electric vehicles with us benefiting and us being seen as a non-competitor. When we say we are standardizing our ops, we're saying here that we don't really have a roadmap that we can look at. When we shopped around for the different kinds of companies that are like us, we found that we're quite unique in the way we operate. So we're building our own roadmap, which is why impact measurement and monitoring is so important to us. Building the next EV, next gen drivers. So this is one of our drivers. We have 3 female drivers, and this is intentional. On one hand, we open our doors to all forms of drivers, but we are aggressively looking for lady drivers. This is part of our gender equality commitment, in that not only are we just welcoming qualified lady drivers, but we have a program that allows them to get equipped and certified with higher certifications from driving a 4-wheeler elf truck all the way to a 10-wheeler a full-fledged EV truck. So technology is only as good as the humans behind the wheel. This is very important. They are we're completely dependent on them for the care of our assets. So we mentioned this earlier, empowering small truck drivers, Mober EV rental models let small operators skip the capital expenses. So what we do is we provide our fleet, our software that's proprietary to us. So that's tech plus access equals us attempting to level the playing field for the industry. The technology we have is something we're very proud of. So there's a lot of investment that went into these two softwares that we have. This is proprietary. There's the battery management system and the transport management system. For the battery, I think it's self-explanatory. For the transport, it allows us to see any off-tangent approaches to how the driver operates. It allows us to check if the driver needs retraining, if there's any issues on delays, and all of that. So one measures the performance of our people, the other measures the performance of our assets. When we say we're redefining competition, our approach is instead of directly competing with massive, thank you, yeah, with massive logistics partners, massive logistics players like DB Schenker, FedEx, and Maersk, we're looking to partner with them to handle their mid and last mile solutions as a zero emission delivery solution. There, we have a very big target of 500,000 small truckers to be clients of ours in the long term. Just a few more slides, maybe two actually. So we just wanted to state this market opportunity that we've been seeing. One is the Philippine logistics space was worth 11 billion. This is, I believe this counts for freight and logistics for land. It's much larger if you go sea and freight. 35% of logistics cost is always fuel. So if you look at the comparative analysis of that, if you look at cost per kilometer for a diesel engine, if I'm not mistaken, it's 9 pesos per kilometer. For electric vehicles, it's 2 pesos per kilometer. So you do the math, it's quite a good business model to lean on. You also have the continued government push for net zero and EV incentives. We met with the Department of Energy and they're looking at furthering the incentives for switching to electric vehicles, both on a commercial and business space. So lastly, in terms of our impact, I think this is also self-explanatory. Climate impact is really about annual carbon reductions. So what we're saying is with 500 EVs, that brings about thousands of tons of annual carbon reductions equivalent to up to 50,000 trees if grown within 10 years. On our social impact, we're looking at gender equality, responsible livelihood, decent work, economic growth. So lastly, I think this is my last slide. This is just telling you that we're not just an EV solutions provider, we are an innovations and tech provider first. So we're always looking at different ways to innovate and advance our responsible business operations. Maybe today it's EVs, maybe today we're using batteries that are dependent on cobalt and the kind of minerals that are quite controversial when you look at circularity. Maybe next, once there are available solutions, we're looking at aggressively adopting that. And I think that's the way to go in terms of the circularity journey of Mober. I'll leave it at that. I'll maybe get questions later, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Mober is such an interesting case to start this conversation off because it's fairly new. I mean, well, 10 years isn't new, but it's more of like an emerging industry. And what Miguel talked about was fitting with the presentations earlier. You can't just buy or create an electric vehicle and think that it's going to solve different issues, right? Like you have to train people, you have to hire people. If anyone is looking for a job, females who are in between jobs. They're hiring for drivers, so take note. You also have to build infrastructure for it, like the charging ports, and it's not the same as just the other electric vehicles, right? Although the good thing in the Philippines, in Manila, you're exempted from number coding if you have an electric vehicle. So that's one perk of having an electric vehicle. But then it's a good summary of what a circular economy is and what kind of issues we are facing with a company like this, and what the emerging issues that we need to address as the circular economy grows. Before we launch into the opening plenary, just a couple of reminders. One is we invite you to visit the booths outside. We have different exhibitors. They're selling products. You can go shopping. You can also learn about the different waste management services that the firms and consultants are doing outside. And also a reminder to please silent your phones. We've been hearing some alarms. We've been hearing some reminders and some ringtones. I have not yet heard Shopee, but please, let's not get there. So you can just put your phones on silent. All right, so we can now start our opening plenary. I'm very excited about this plenary because it really shows how circular economy is being applied in different sectors. And when we were designing this program, we were really asking ourselves, what does circular economy look like beyond waste management, beyond plastics? What does it look like in energy? What does it look like in environment, in natural resources, in food and agriculture? So this panel is called Circularity in Sectors. We have a powerhouse panel. When I was reading their bios, I was like, it's giving Avengers of ADB. This is so exciting. This is going to be moderated by Suzanne Roth, the advisor for ADB Office of the Principal Director, the Department of Communications and Knowledge Management. Let's welcome Suzanne on stage. She is leading the group that advises knowledge management best practices to enhance efficiency, quality, and innovation at ADB. And their team tests new ways for better multidisciplinary collaboration and problem solving, such as human-centered design thinking, foresight, and future thinking. So she's the perfect moderator for this panel. We'd also like to invite our panelists. We'll start off with Yoko Watanabe, the Director for Environment. You met her briefly earlier in the photo op, but Yoko is the Director for the Environment, and she heads the environment sustainability work, including nature-based solutions, biodiversity conservation and ecosystem management, air quality, circular economy and waste management, and environmental finance. That's a lot. You're very busy, I see. Next, we have Cindy Cisneros Tianco, the Director for the the Energy Sector Office. Her innovative work has helped pave the way for significant renewable energy development in the region. And since she assumed office as the Director for Emerging Areas in the energy sector, she has been focusing on frontier energy technologies for clean power generation, storage, and grids, and on new ways of working to deliver maximum development impact to clients. Then we have Norio Saito, the Senior Director for Water and Urban Development. Norio has been the Senior Sector Director of the Water and Urban Development Sector since June 2023 and leads and oversees operations that support livable cities, water security, circular economy, and urban resilience in all regions where ADB operates. Then we have Takeshi Ueda, who has over 20 years of experience. 16 are in ADB. And since joining ADB in 2008, he has held various roles in the agriculture and natural resources sector, formulating projects across Cambodia, Mongolia, and the People's Republic of China, the Philippines, and Viet Nam. In August, he was appointed director of the Emerging Areas team under the Agriculture, Food, Nature, and Rural Development Sector Office. He now leads South Asia and agricultural value chain and the nutrition team. And we'd like to call back on stage Miguel Bermundo from MOBER. And that completes the Avengers of our opening plenary. And now we would also like to we'll show the QR code again because you will be sharing your questions via the QR code. So if you're still on it, you can just keep it there. And while the discussion is ongoing, you can put your questions there. If you have lost the QR code somehow, just go to ahaslides.com/ADBCE forum. So this is the QR code. And now I will turn it over to Suzanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anna. So, great pleasure to moderate this panel here. We want to make it interactive, so please drop your questions in this app, but I'm also open to any standing questions if you raise your hand. So, first question here to start us off is we want to talk about actual practices and examples. So, Yoko, you have worked in environment for a couple of years already, decades. So, is the concept of circular economy actually new? And what is happening maybe especially now in driving more circular economy approaches in economies?
Great question. Thank you very much. And I'm really delighted to be here with such a distinguished panelist and also wonderful and young sort of audience. So in terms of is circular economy new? It is not new, actually. And it actually, we have been working on waste management and recycling and many things together for a long time. But I have to say, putting it together in a system-wide approach, like from the source to sort of to the recycling, to make it to a more basically a circular sort of diagram is certainly new, and also we need to have all sectors together and all sort of cross countries beyond transboundary initiatives and others need to come together. So that's a part that we are really pushing forward these days. And I have to say, from the environment team that I lead, we have put together the Environment Action Plan last year, and we put circular economy as one of the key pillars of the three, meaning that we have to work on the triple planetary crisis of biodiversity loss, climate change, and pollution. And circular economy comes very squarely into the pollution pillar. And we have been focusing with James and Erin here, who is leading the work to really try to bring in sort of multi-sectoral approach, an integrated approach, so that we can take this issue to a next level, talking about basically reduce and reuse and recycle in a more sort of a circular way.
Thank you, Yoko. So, Norio, with your Asia Pacific wide portfolio, can you share maybe how circular economy is included in our programs and projects, and maybe a specific country where we've worked over a couple of years already in this kind of programmatic approach through your urban development portfolio?
All right, thank you for the question, and thank you for having me here in this forum. And so I'm representing Water and Urban Development Sector Office. So for us, circular economy is most relevant to solid waste management, but also wastewater management. But before we talk about circular economy, actually, even the kind of linear management has not been established fully in waste management and also wastewater, because about 80% of wastewater generated still goes to the water body without any treatment. And also 70% of mismanaged waste in the world originates from Asia and the Pacific. So we really need to establish the kind of basic system first before we really can talk about circular economy. But then going to the circular economy, I think the plastic waste was already covered very well in the keynote, the presentation. So I want to focus on food waste or organic waste first. Organic waste, actually the data are not very difficult to get, like how much food waste it generates per year or per day. The one study I saw is 1.3 billion of food waste it generates in the world a year. It's difficult to imagine what this 1.3 billion really means for the food waste, but this is still a very unutilized resource. A part of that can be compost, can go for composting, but also like anaerobic digestion to generate biogas. But that kind of utilization or circularity is still very limited. So there is still a great potential how we can support more this biogas generation, which can be used as fuel or can be used to generate power. The second part is about wastewater management. Water resources are becoming more scarce and more unreliable, partly because of climate change. So now there is a strong incentive to really utilize wastewater better, treat well, possibly for agricultural use or even for drinking purposes. Singapore is very well known for this new water, one of the water sources for the drinking purposes. But probably some of the people living in Manila may not know that even Manila, the West Zone concessionaire of the water supply, water utility, a small part of that wastewater treatment plant is used for drinking purposes. So that kind of circularity is happening, but that has to be done more. And then the issue that is connecting this organic waste and wastewater treatment is really the sludge. Now there are more technologies available to co-digest food waste with sewage sludge. Also like a fecal sludge coming from the on-site treatment systems can be co-generated. So co-digested, sorry. So this co-digestion can, as I said, can generate a significant amount of biogas. So that's something that we can really, we should really pursue more.
So, Norio, when you speak to government clients, are they actively asking for circular solutions and circular economy solutions?
That's a great question. Actually, in these days, we are receiving more and more requests from the government to support them in improving waste management, but really focusing more on the resource recovery. One way is like integrated solid waste management systems. So it's not just collecting, transporting, putting on the landfill, but they want to maximize the material resource recovery. And if it doesn't, if it's not sufficient, kind of waste energy technologies to really use the maximum resources coming from the waste. Yeah, and also like a plastic waste, we're getting some requests from some countries to help them with improving plastic waste management.
And so what kind of agencies do we bring together as ADB? Because you work at the municipal level often, right?
Right.
Which silos, so to say, have to collaborate in terms of the different sectors in government?
Yeah, one is of course the municipality or the local governments. But then when we work, but I think the critical part is really to improve the policy and regulatory environment. Otherwise, local governments or water utilities alone cannot really pursue this circularity on reasonably financial terms. So this policy backing, policy regulatory framework improvement is essential. And that part we need to work with Ministry of Environment or other ministries working on this policy regulatory framework.
Thank you, Norio. Thank you very much. So Takeshi, from agriculture perspective, right, where is the circularity most impactful and what examples can you share from ADB's work?
Okay, thank you. I mean, where it's impactful, actually agriculture itself, is circularity. So, we use soil and we use, water and produce, food for us to, do activities. But at the same time, we put any residues or waste putting back to soil. And in a way that can be naturally managed. So that's really, agriculture itself, entire activities are, circularity. And the President Kanda announced this 40 billion food system transformation financing at the annual meeting in May. And this food system concept itself is really talking about circularity, because we are just busy with producing and processing and transporting things without taking care of, externalities. To use, soil nutrient, to use a lots of water and transport far, we are generating so much GHG and polluting water and soil. In the long run, we are degrading. So those things we have to factor in the system to take care of, sustainability in agriculture. So that's something we are trying to promote in our program. And, not only production, but also we take care of entire system, including, nutrition management of human, utilization of food. So that's another aspect. And food waste and residues. So yeah.
Yeah. So do you have one example or one project that you're particularly proud of or that
Yeah.
features the
Okay.
circularity?
Yeah, sure. This is one of my projects. I prepared one project for China about almost 10 years ago. And that's a livestock production. And back then, China, meat consumption was increasing because income was rising. So how to catch up with this meat production for the country, that was the big challenge. But at the same time, meat production requires safety. So under this background, we helped Chinese government to establish or develop meat value chain and taking care of the biggest issue was this animal waste because we have lots of animal and processing, so we have so much wastewater as well as animal waste. So, but if there is no incentive for these, say, meat processing companies, they just simply, run the waste to the natural bodies, water or land. So our project helped these SMEs, meat processing companies, to take care of waste and convert it to biofuel or biomass and convert to fertilizer to put back to soil. So basically we bring in the circularity concept.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nora, I saw your slide. I'll come back to this in a minute on a specific case study. Let's hear from Cindy first. Cindy, you are driving energy through everything, right? We have this saying that without energy, there is no development. So what are examples of circularity in the energy sector that your team has been implementing or is planning to implement?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Do we need
I was not
slides?
able to send it to anyone. It's all right.
Okay,
I
good.
did have the one slider from last week, but
Okay.
I no, but I hope I can do it justice with just words. So, energy sector. I mean, for us, circular economy is not new, but we have not really embraced it to its full potential. I mean, we've been focusing on energy efficiency and waste to energy, which Noria pointed out, but this could be agricultural waste, this could be industrial waste heat, or landfill gas to energy. But those are the large scale projects that we've done so far. But recently, of course, as Yoko pointed out, we've been looking at cross-sector solutions, integrating all of the challenges and finding a solution that is actually very circular in a way, but very integrated in a way that you drive maximum impact. And we talked about circular economy being move away from take, make, waste, and at the same time we also have the expression that says haste makes waste, right? So this is where systems planning is required. We need to be able to step back a little bit, look at it more holistically, look at the challenges in that particular context, and then what are the solutions that are appropriate in that context. So given that mindset, I want to give an example of the Kiribati solar project.
The Pacific.
In the Pacific. So Kiribati, a tiny country, 117,000 people, and their capital, Tarawa, is very land constrained and also water constrained. There's energy, food, and water insecurity in these islands, right? In this particular case, they don't have any land for solar anymore because it's just very, very constrained. The one area that could, house a megawatt scale PV is their freshwater lens. Their only source of fresh water. So, and that means covering that area with solar panels. Of course, when you prepare the land, you take out all the vegetation in there. So the solution that we provided was not only to remediate, of course, we need to have a buffer zone in that water lens, plant more trees, remediate the vegetation that was taken out to put the solar panels. We incorporated rainwater collection in the panels such that you can use that water for washing. Well, it washes the panels, but also you can store it for when there's no water available, not only for domestic use, but also for cleaning the arrays themselves. And that means you're not taking away from the water that was going to go into the lens to recharge the lens, right? It's just put to good use before it is brought back to the lens. And the other circularity thing there is that they are taking the fresh water using pumps, of course, from underground, using energy. And then, of course, they treat it before they distribute to the households. So meaning if you use the water pumped from the ground to clean the lens, that's treated water, right? It used energy already. But if you use rainwater, recirculate that for cleaning, then it is not only efficient, but also is resource, you don't use a lot of the resource. And another thing that is incorporated there, we did not only use or do land-based PV, but we also incorporate floating solar PV. And incorporated in that floating solar PV is what we call electric reefs. Electric reefs are actually metallic structures that you put, on the water. If you put electricity, charge it with some trickle of electricity, it can actually attract coral. So you actually form a reef. And that electric metal could be car wrecks, boat wrecks, shipwrecks, right? You just have to strip it clean from toxic and hazardous substances, and then it can actually regenerate and improve the fish habitat or for the reefs. Yep. So I guess that's.
So are solutions like this more expensive?
Well, it is more expensive, of course, but there are trade-offs to that, the cost. For example, take floating PV, for example. You're not using land that is otherwise used for other purposes. And the cooling effect of the water actually increases the yield of the solar PV. So there's a trade-off. There's additional cost, but there's additional benefits as well.
Mm-hmm. So talking about all the renewable equipment, batteries, solars, how is that being recycled, reused in island communities, all that waste that is generated?
Very, very good and very, very difficult question. No. We are certainly starting to look into that. Solar PV, wind, or renewables produce like tsunami of waste. Already 60 million tons of modules and 43 million tons of turbine blades, being wasted. And of course, you can't recover most of the critical minerals that are in there. So what we've done so far, we are of course looking. There's a massive study on how to recycle these waste from renewables, not only from the panels or the wind turbines, but also from the batteries in particular. And then, well, apart from the metals waste and others, the critical minerals are really what we're struggling still. So the bank is right now just looking at a critical minerals approach to make sure that how we can recover from there, and then also, of course, anyway, critical minerals recovery from modules is still at a nascent stage. I know there are some facilities in Singapore, for example, but very, very little in terms of output. But other materials, we do have facilities in Australia and New Zealand that could possibly, recycle these wastes, and that's what we've been doing. Even car wrecks and shipwrecks, they're shipped to Australia or New Zealand, and yeah.
Still, so a lot of opportunity to create industries in the region.
Yes, remanufacturing, recycling and remanufacturing from these. Yeah.
So maybe that brings me to Miguel. So you have an electric fleet. Where's the energy coming from for this electric fleet?
Yeah, good question. So we're currently on the grid, right? So that means it's non-renewable. There is some reduction in our emissions, but not fully and not nearly where we want to be. We've applied to the Green Energy Option Program of the government. So that allows us to work with different energy companies that have that where we can tap into renewable energy. And I think that's something we're going to secure within the year. Once we do that, then the emission reduction, goes up.
And how do you go about what we just discussed, recycling of batteries, bringing the batteries into the right recycling or repair environment? Is that easy for you, or what is required to really build that circular ecosystem here in the Philippines?
Yeah, that's tricky to Ma'am's point because there is no waste management program in the Philippines, as I know, for hazardous waste like our like our batteries. It's something we send in my previous company. We send our waste to Singapore for processing. For this, we're working with CATL. They're the electric vehicle battery provider. They're a major one for the likes of Tesla, Mercedes, Toyota, and all of these. So we are anticipating that we'll be providing them the batteries once there's completely end of life for these units.
And how about skills? Do you have enough skilled employees to actually know how to repair and maintain fleets? Are there training programs in the Philippines for that?
You mean for waste management or care for batteries?
Yeah, electric vehicle mechanics.
Yes. No, we have to. We are sending our maintenance to the companies we're working with. So our vendors offered that we can have some knowledge sharing, knowledge exchanges, because it's a tricky and very technical thing to care for electric vehicles and batteries specifically. So our monitoring systems can only go so far because you're looking at a very surface level of care. But then when it comes to maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when you start to see some decay in the performance of the electric vehicles, when you start having what's called charging anxiety, like when your iPhone suddenly jumped from 80 to 40 and you don't know why. So we're anticipating the same problems. We're not there yet because we're quite new in our switch to electric vehicles, but that's such a big challenge we're anticipating.
Good. So I think what I'm trying to show that the ecosystem is not necessarily there yet. So let's talk now a bit more about policy and regulation, Yoko. So what isn't possible yet but would change everything and really accelerate the establishment of circular economy ecosystems in countries?
So you're talking about what can change everything?
Yes, in terms of regulation, policy, what would enable the ecosystem for circular economy?
Okay, great. No, it's a great challenging question. So first of all, I really have to say, in addition to what you have mentioned earlier, we're really facing a crisis right now. I just come back from UN Ocean Conference, where we really realized that the world is really in kind of a disaster right now with all the pollution, including the waste from plastics as well as water contamination and all that. And we really need a new sort of regime globally as well as nationally, and also translated in sub-region and locality. And for that, the current discussion, first of all, is the Global Plastic Treaty. So we have gathered 5 times already among the 190 plus countries, try to come up with agreement to really eliminate and ban, in a way, plastic, and also really use more quality sort of materials to move forward and recycle these initiatives. And we haven't been able to come to conclusion for the past 2 years, but we're coming, as the Undersecretary mentioned, we are coming as a global community this August to really conclude on this negotiation and have a treaty and commit ourselves to really reduce use of plastic. And this is sort of a really game changer in a way at the global level. And this is also translated it to a national level now with, for example, Philippines have a policy on plastic, and this will be updated as we move forward. And also Manila, we just supported with our technical assistant on an action plan to reduce plastic. So these are sort of the cascading sort of policies that can make a huge difference. But at the same time, for these policies and regulation to really make a difference, after all, I really think the governance is an issue, and also awareness of consumers is an issue. And I think we really need to make sure that these policies, good policies, is enforced and implemented with capacities on the local level. And for that reason, I think, really mobilizing local communities, women's and youth, and use of technology like digital solutions that we'll be talking about during this course of 2 days is really, really important.
So this brings us, there are several questions here from the audience about the actors. So you spoke about global actors are important. Then of course at the national level actors. Norio already spoke about the municipality. And then of course you need the technical agencies like environment departments who are often the least funded, right? And the in governments. And of course you need Ministry of Finance to look into this and ministries or departments of economic development to look at economic strategies. Anyone can answer, who's facilitating that they all come together on that discussion of circular economy right now? Any thoughts? Who is facilitating these discussions right now? No one, right? I mean, you're shaking, yeah. So no one yet. So, but hopefully ADB is ADB planning, Yoko, to be more in that space to facilitate the actors who need to be involved in establishing circular economy ecosystems?
No, thank you. I mean, I really think that I think there is key actors, maybe not only ADB. I mean, ADB is an enabler, right? Yeah. So we're not the one that is really, pushing forward. But the three actors that I can think about is definitely the government, the private sector, and civil society. And if all these actors come together and really come through, like we've been hearing from the government and also private sector already, I hope there is going to be a session also on the inclusive approach with civil society. But I think all these actors coming together, and ultimately, I really think that local government and local leadership really makes a huge difference to bring these together. And ADB is here to support from particularly like financial sort of instruments. For example, we are a leading organization who did the first blue bond to actually support water pollutions and also coastal management and other issues to clean up these areas and also come up with alternatives, right? So I think, we can enable that from the policy angle. We can also enable that from finance, and also we can enable that from capacity building and knowledge sharing like this. And that would really trigger that sort of local leadership to bring together the different stakeholders together.
So local leadership, important point. And to that, Cindy, one question for you is, local leadership, there are several questions here on that, actually related to technology and related to if waste to energy solutions are part of circular economy or not. I think these are all questions which show us that no one really, that it's difficult to find the right solution for the context. How do you find the right solutions for the context and say, okay, this is a good technology, a good solution, which is in line with circularity principles in that particular country or for that particular problem? How do we go about that?
Thanks, Suzanne. Yes, indeed, we need to have, we need to break down silos in governments as well as in ADB. And I think, this push for cross-sector integrated solutions is a good start. I think we need to be able to do it from a systems thinking level, look at it and design solutions that are integrated in a way that you address several different challenges. And when here in ADB, for example, I think because you talked about energy as being cross-cutting, and environment and climate is also cross-cutting, and also digitalization or digital transformation is also cross-cutting. So all these elements need to come together in terms of finding and integrated solutions to an economy-wide problem. right? And circular economy, I mean, a systems integration or systems thinking is an enabler for circular economy, because then you understand what are the and data, what are the sources of waste, for example, what are the sources of inefficiency, then so what are the possible solutions available within that context or within a particular jurisdiction? What renewables and renewable energies is available? What grid infrastructure is available? What manufacturing facilities available? So these are the type of data and comprehensive look at a system to be able to design it for a truly working circular economy.
So, Norio, you have a great case study. Do you want to go back to that and maybe also walk us through this example in the People's Republic of China? Can we go back to that slide, please, with the case study in Guangzhou? Was it in?
Yeah, this is again the China's one. But before just introducing this one, I want to go back to your question about how to put those relevant stakeholders in circular economy together. I think in the end, we need government ownership, but ADB can still facilitate or nudge relevant agencies in the government to be together to discuss these circular economy issues. I can talk about Pasig River Urban Development Initiative, which we are currently supporting the government. We are doing a lot of consultations, capacity building activities. One of them is to establish the digital twin for this Pasig River plastic waste management. So we are putting all the relevant agencies together in these initiatives, like MMDA, DNR, DOF, Department of Information. So those relevant agencies are put together to really discuss this, how to come up with the solutions. So that's one example. And also, our team processed one policy-based loan in India a few years ago called the Sustainable Urban Service Delivery Program. This is also policy-based lending. So when the government achieved policy actions, ADB has dispersed the fund to the government. But in that process, we had a series of consultations with the government, and India is a federal system. So the central ministries need to discuss with the state governments and city governments. So ADB facilitated that discussion to come up with the policies, but once the policies are formulated, then those policies need to be operationalized or implemented at the state and the city level. So that kind of discussion we supported the government to hold, and this policy-based loan played an important role for that purpose. Yeah, so this one is the program in China, which our team is currently processing. So this is in Guangxi Zhuan Autonomous Region, which is the southern part of China, neighboring Vietnam. So China has been implementing this zero waste city program, and there are 3 pilot cities in this autonomous region. But of course, some progress has been made, that they are facing some challenges as well. So this is an RBL, results-based lending, to pick up 2 more cities in this Guangxi to really support zero waste city management. So our approach is really comprehensive, strengthening the institutional capacity, knowledge, supporting the policy establishment, but also financing the facilities for waste sorting, segregation, and recycling. And also, this is 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle practice in waste management, people's behavior change, and also supporting the circular economy industrial parks. And one key feature of this is that we are using results-based lending. For those who may not be so familiar, so results-based lending is ADB gives disbursement only when the results are confirmed. So whatever activities are done, if the results are not confirmed, then the money will not flow to the government. So this gives strong incentives for the government and cities to really achieve the results. So these results include our outcome level, increasing the recycling rate from 25% to 35%. And output level, the government needs to formulate 10 or 12 policies to really promote circular economy. And then some of the facilities for waste sorting and segregation need to be established. So these are at the output level, and then there are some outcome level indicators. So this way we are really supporting the government to move toward circular economy. Thank
So
you.
I think that China is a great example because they also have a national circular economy framework or plan or approach, right? And then it's broken down to the provinces. There's one question here which kind of links with this approach, and the question here is: how do we measure that circular economy is actually improving or is progressing in a certain context? So, do you have any examples, like how is China measuring if circularity is advancing? You know, anyone can answer here in the panel, or you know, from any other countries. How do we know it's progressing?
I think one indicator we are using here is the recycling rate. I think there is a kind of international kind of definition of recycling rate, but I think each country has been using slightly different definition. But whatever the definition is, of course, this is a clear measure to see whether the circular economy is really being promoted in the country or in the city.
So recycling is one.
Yeah, no, I think for recycling is one, but also, you know, coming up with alternative and reducing the production of it is also another clear indicator, because, you know, the harmful sort of pollution products and really reducing the chemical use and others are really a good indicator of already starting from the upstream, to promote a circular economy. And also, I think the consumption side is also an issue. So basically, you know, how much consumption is based on plastics and other unreusable sort of product is another really good indicator as well. And I think, you know, we are coming up under also the global plastic treaty that I mentioned is coming up with monitoring system and also global indicators that can be used among the countries. And this can be applied not only for plastic use, but also for other chemicals and other actually regenerative agriculture and regenerative sort of water use and others are also part of this discussion. And more promotion of these initiatives are good indicators of how the country is moving towards a circular economy or not.
So recycling, less consumption, material science, new materials. Takeshi, there are lots of material innovation going on also in sustainable agriculture area, right? Any examples you may have, or anything you'd like to add to how do we measure circularity in agriculture and natural resources?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So indicators eventually, I mean, lots of indicators we can, more like impact level indicator, like clean air or, you know, water quality improvement, these things. And in terms of, I mean, agriculture, this circularity, we are investing in bamboo economy in, for instance, India, and also, I mean, to be in China, in Philippines and Nepal. And what it does is bamboo is very prolific and you know, fast growing. We call it grass. It's not trees. So, and abundant in some areas. For instance, we are working in North India, lots of bamboos, but they are only used for kind of handicrafts or very traditional use, I mean, household items. So now we try to help them to build value chain and more industrial use. For instance, like building materials, we can mix with, you know, bamboo, this fiber, and also, you know, plastic alternative. Lots of utensils and these things can be converted to bamboo. So we are assisting this process, and I think reduce lots of carbon footprint, and also, I mean, good for nature and good for livelihood. That's something we are doing. Yeah.
Thank you. So one thing is also new material, new fabrics. So I think what we heard now is really from global to national level to provincial level, regulation policies are required. We need the buy-in support from, of course, civil society. There needs to be opportunity for new jobs and also for companies to actually create business. And then, of course, you need to see and measure the impact that circularity and circular economy projects have. Now I have a question. We are going to the last 5 minutes. So anyone here can also think about if you want to make any last statement. I have one last question here also from the audience. But for you, Miguel, so how long have you been with Mober now? 2 years?
Just about a year.
A year, okay. So do you see that younger entrepreneurs in the Philippines are moving more into circular economy concepts and businesses?
Yeah, I think across the board, across
Yeah.
industries, there's a great awareness and mindfulness now
There is.
of sustainability principles, responsible business practices. I think you see it in the way companies are starting to address this demand, right? Everyone is, whether it's a deep understanding of sustainability or just a very shallow or entry level, companies are already speaking to that demand, right? Where consumers care about where your items come from, how they're made, who made it, what are the perceptions around the people who made it, what are the certifications. On a deeper level, we're looking at the actual impact. On our level, in terms of adoption, we're always looking at incentives also. I just wanted to touch also on what you mentioned, that who is centralizing these discussions, how is adoption, how can adoption be nourished. We find in Mober that incentives always drives behavior
And who gives the incentives?
from the top.
Okay.
So it always has to come from the top, I think,
Yeah.
because incentives from the bottom, it seems doesn't make sense that it starts from the bottom, right? But when you're talking about silos in a department, where maybe it's easy for me to say with a small company, right? But when the incentives are passed down, that this is something that will affect my bottom line or will affect my performance as an employee or as a leader, then change happens quickly because now it's me on the line.
So incentive,
right?
is incentive always money or is incentive?
No, not at
Okay.
all. It doesn't have to be money. It could be, for example, for a department leader or a manager, you're looking at mandating that I work with this department and we need to show very tangible results. So if we're looking at sustainability, marketing has to consume less. Finance should do things without paper. Things like that, right? How can our electric vehicles and batteries be taken care of? You have fleet making sure they measure the state. You have training and HR making sure all the drivers rally behind proper care. You have compliance taking a look at the regulations. So it has to be a general mandate from the top, but you have real targets that hit the performance of employees and managers. That for us, that was one of our success metrics to really drive sustainability and the agenda around it.
So one last question for you.
Yeah.
What would change everything for Mober if it happened at the highest national, government level in terms of regulation or policy, anything?
Oh, what a nice question. It's I think incentives around electric vehicles, but the manner in which you source it also.
The what?
The manner in which you source it
Okay,
matters.
the matter of where you source it.
The biggest criticism around electric vehicles is the minerals and how it's sourced. Cobalt is mostly in Congo. How do you take that away, right? But you can't create batteries without that. But now there are now batteries being tested without cobalt. So
Yeah, sodium.
yeah.
batteries.
So can we start using that? Is it available in the Philippines? How much? Does it hit our bottom line? Can we afford it? So all of these things, it's something that small companies always look at because we're always looking for the edge. We have the edge now because we sort of had a foot in front of the race with being the biggest electric vehicle adopter, but that cost a lot of money. Maybe it's easy for a bigger company to do, but for now we're there. But we're always looking for what's the next thing, and can we do it correctly? Because one wrong move in terms of breaking the purity of the sustainability agenda we're trying to adopt can break the business because consumers will see right through it.
Okay. So also a circularity trademark or something on products,
Yeah.
on businesses would be something that
Yeah.
would drive
It could, but only to the degree that there's integrity around that
Yes, of course.
certification. Because the bigger you go, the harder it is to actually look into the details.
Yes.
And suddenly, you have enough documentaries to show, oh, this stamp is supposedly good, but you break it down, and there's a lot of neglect because of the largeness of the company.
It's the
And
trust
there's so
issue.
much to talk about there also.
Yeah. So that maybe now, I know there's one lady wants to have one question. I'll give you the last question, but before we come to you, one question for everyone, and you can answer whoever would like to answer it. And that is, there was one question from the audience here. With the current global economy and the challenges with new trade situations and so on, do you think that circular economy is being reconsidered as a great opportunity, or do you think circular economy is seen as something expensive and difficult right now? Yeah, Yoko, you go ahead.
Okay, great. So that's a great question, and I think what Rob actually mentioned earlier really showed that there is real opportunity moving forward. And what I have seen is one of the research actually shows that if we really made a systemic change in even just with plastic, to reduce 80% of the plastic, we need to invest $630 billion, which is quite expensive. But if we needed to tackle the current global crisis on plastic and clean up these whole waste, it costs actually 730 billion. So, if you see that there is 110 billion difference, so it's actually cheaper if we did take action now and considered later. And also, many of these ecosystems, particularly in the ocean, we are reducing the fish. We have more plastic than fish in the next 10 years. And we really need to really take action. And in that case, it's actually investing it right now is more cost effective than putting into the future.
Yes, thank you. Any other thoughts? Are we seeing, is this an opportunity right now, the challenging global economy, or a threat to circular economy?
Let me start. I just want to share a very exciting initiative that we have now. It is coal to solar heating in the Gur districts of Mongolia. Mongolia is the coldest country in the world, particularly Ulaanbaatar. 60% of their emissions for air pollution coming from the Gur districts. These are like tents in a way, people living in 800,000 people, half of the population living in these Gurs, and they use coal for heating for 7 months of the year at least. So indoor air quality as well as air pollution is really, really at a critical stage there. So what we have proposed is for the government to actually reallocate their subsidies for coal to a program that will support a startup that is using coal to, solar energy. This is solar with batteries and, of course, electric heaters and with storage as well. And the households, and they have incorporated a battery management system that will, and a whole system management, data acquisition to get carbon credits. So this is a way to incentivize not only the private sector, but also the households, because they get part of the carbon credits. And then governments will solve partially the air pollution problem. So that's the exciting thing that we're doing.
So you're ending on a
enabling.
positive note. It's possible.
It's possible.
And things are
it's
changing.
Possible, yes.
Norio.
Yeah,
And also, sorry, batteries are going to be recycled from
technology.
EVs. They're going to use recycled batteries.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for us. And we all know that there are significant benefits in terms of less pollution, reduction in greenhouse gases. So the key issue for us is to really how to internalize the environmental externalities. So then this goes back to the issue of policy framework, right? Coming up with tax subsidies, incentives, financial incentives is one, but also making the minimum use of minimum contents on the recycled materials in the plastics, maybe another policy measure. Having higher levies in the landfill is also going to incentivize more recycling. So there are many policy measures available. So I think, and also we have these policy-based loans to support the government to really engage in more policy reform. So I think that's where the ADBs can play an important role to move towards a circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, despite this trade war, uh, I think issues that we are facing, air quality or water quality, you know, or soil degradation, these things are really imminent. So, I mean, that's much stronger than whatever happening. And as ADB, I mean, agriculture especially, I mean, we are hit very hard by degradation of whatever. So we really need to take into consideration, but community engagement is really important. I observed some of the great example of this circular agriculture in India, engaging community, so that's really important.
Thank you. Thank you. So another positive example, policies are not that expensive. Implementing it is cheaper than waiting for the total disaster in a couple of years. Private sector is willing. The new generation wants it. Miguel.
Yeah, and I guess for companies, the essence of the company, for all companies to exist, is you have to make money, right? It's a business. If you're not looking at the bottom line, then you're an NGO looking at the impact, right? So you have all of these initiatives. They're all wonderful, exciting, but in order to get adoption from the private sector, there has to be a way to rehash the language that hits the bottom line. How do you threaten the bottom line, or how do you incentivize for higher, incentives financially or not? Like, one example is the coding lift for vehicles that are electric vehicles. You have one additional day out of the road, so that's an edge. So things like that matter in terms of adoption of circularity. Without its link to the business, then it's hard to get just the altruism angle in.
Okay, that's linked to the business. All right. So thank you very much for all of you for being here. There are many other questions from you. You have an opportunity during breaks to ask more questions. There were asked questions about waste to energy and if this part of circularity. There were questions about TESTA partnering with MOBER. There are already initiatives. There were more questions about circularity and policies and how communities can be involved. So a lot will be covered in the next 2 days on this, right, Yoko? And now you have a question, so we want to make sure that we also hear from the participants directly. So any
Thank you
question or
very much.
comment, but please make it short, yes, so that we can also answer it.
Thank you very much.
Also state your name, please.
Yes, I am Lisa Antonio, formerly with the Philippine Business for Environment, now the Philippine Business Council for Sustainable Development. Just 3 quick things. The first one, the recurring question about there's so many exciting things happening, but who's orchestrating, who's helping to put this together? Well, at the ASEAN level, at least at the regional level, we can revisit the work that is being done for the ASEAN Circular Economy Framework. So this involves the national governments, the Business Advisory Council. So that would be a good jumping off point. And then to the question about the roles, government obviously is very important, but coming from working with different sectors, sometimes I think it works when we adopt the idea that what if government does not exist? Okay, what do we need to do? In other words, government is important, but we shouldn't wait for government. And to the last point that Migs was saying, for business, this is like deja vu, like 20 years ago. How do you make, people switch to sustainable development? So what business did was they focused on, you can't do a hard sell. They focused on the business case for sustainable development. And so now it's the business case for circular economy. So we can look to the business councils for sustainable development, especially the regional networks. So that might be something ADB might want to consider, working with WBCSD, tap the regional networks, because the programs of CE, of the business councils, are really good and just really need to spread. And to the last point, how do you know we're making progress? Again, at least from the corporate side, there's this whole slew of CE matrices that incorporate not just the recycling, the end part of it, but the beginning, like how much resources have been substituted, how much raw materials have been, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really exciting. I know it's just the first forum, but it's really exciting and so much more knowledge. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Lisa. This was a great summary. Thank you for also bringing attention to what's happening at the regional level with ASEAN. Very important for ADB, and ADB is working very closely with ASEAN Secretariat and enhancing support there as an important platform to drive national and local actions. And of course, at the end, business and citizens and people are all responsible for that. So with that, thank you, Elisa. Thank you to the audience. I'm wrapping up this panel now and handing over again to Anna.
Thank you so much. Please give them a round of applause. And before they exit the stage, I'd like to invite all of you for a group photo. So please move here in front of the tables for a group photo with our official photographer. Again, if you want to post, please use the hashtag ADB Advancing Circularity. You can also tag at ADB Environment on X, at ADB_HQ on Instagram, and at Asian Development Bank on LinkedIn. So you want to share your experiences, your key takeaways. You can put your thought leadership pieces on LinkedIn. We'll be very happy to read them. So thank you again. Please give them a round of applause. That was kicking off our opening plenary and looking at how ADB is applying circular economy principles in different sectors and case studies. Now, I know all of you are excited for the most awaited part, which is lunch. I know you're excited. But before we go and break into lunch, I have a few important announcements. So after lunch, this auditorium will be broken up into 4 different rooms to accommodate the 3 different tracks. So I will be moderating track 1, which will be an auditorium 1, which is focusing on legal frameworks and policy. I'm very excited for this panel. It talks about the Global Plastics Treaty, and then the Extended Producer Responsibility case study in Korea, and then we have a local case study on how Quezon City is promoting a plastic-free or plastic bag-free city. And then we have a discussant, Diane from Treaty Oasis. Track 2, which will be an auditorium 2, is going to be on breakthroughs in practice. It's moderated by Clyde Hutchinson. So we have 3 speakers earlier. Noria was talking about the case study on bamboo. The panel was talking about the case study on bamboo. And that will be showcased in the panel later. So this is on breakthroughs in practice. We also have a case study on the Pasig City Twin Rivers, and then we have community-based digital solutions by Surbi. And then track number 3 will be on digitalization of the plastic value chain, developing digital roadmap. So that's going to be an auditorium 3. So you have a buffet of topics to choose from. Right after lunch, you're going to another buffet of knowledge. Wow, circular economy knowledge. And a few reminders. Again, we invite you to visit the booths. You have an hour and a half, so you can go to the booths and explore the different products and services offering circular economy.